The Qatar Grand Prix is over, and as I somehow predicted, Max Verstappen in the Red Bull won the race, as there was some pretty interesting penalties. But now, for the final time, F1 is moving to the last race of the year at Yas Marina for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, which means that once again it is time for my preview and predictions. This is a series where I will be previewing and then at the end of the video giving out my early predictions. If you enjoyed the video, then please hit the like button and subscribe for more F1 content. But now, let's get into the video. As usual, I'll be talking about the top teams later on, so please do stick around for that. Yep, it is time finally for the final race of the season, and it is shaping up to be a final race showdown between Ferrari and McLaren for the Constructors Championship, as the championship is getting closer and closer between the two teams, especially after a stop-and-go penalty for Lando Norris. And Abu Dhabi looks like it is a race that could be shaping up to be very close between the two teams, as the Abu Dhabi circuit has a nice mixture of heavy braking zones with some medium speed corners. The medium speed corners will probably suit McLaren more, but there are heavy braking zones at the end of long straights which will suit Ferrari. The circuit layout changed in 2021 and removed a lot of the old tight and technical corners, which considerably sped up the circuit and reduced the race lap times. The new layout leads to the drivers being at full throttle for longer, and in general they can follow a lot better, especially with the ground effect cars. With this layout, expect the teams to run lower downforce than what we just saw in Qatar. Teams with good straight line speed efficiency will probably have a strong race. Thankfully for the teams, it is a normal weekend where they will have free practice sessions instead of just the one like we saw in Qatar, so teams will have plenty of time to dial the cars in for qualifying and the Grand Prix. The Abu Dhabi circuit is typically a very smooth circuit and tyre wear is not that bad, and because of that, Pirelli will once again be bringing the softest tyres in the range, meaning that the hard tyre will be the C3 tyre, the mediums will be the C4 tyres, and the soft tyres will be the C5 compound of tyre. Last year they brought the same tyres and there was a total of 37 pit stops, as the majority of drivers did a 2-stop strategy using 1 set of mediums and 2 sets of hard tyres. This year I expect it will be another 2-stop race and we will probably see the exact same strategy being used. As usual, Abu Dhabi is a twilight race, which sees the temperatures drop as the race continues, as it starts out with sunset and then ends at night. And this could dramatically change the performance of the cars during the race, as we've seen so often this year that a few degrees of temperature change can affect the cars massively, so it means that towards the end of the race, Mercedes could come alive a little bit more, whereas Ferrari may struggle a little bit more. Overtaking at the Abu Dhabi circuit is much better with the current layout compared to the old one, and you can see that as last year there was a grand total of 70 on-track overtakes. To help with overtaking, the Abu Dhabi circuit features 2 DRS zones. The first DRS zone is down the long straight heading into the very tight chicane. Then the second DRS zone is on the exit of turn 8, heading down the long back straight into turn 9, which is a long swooping hairpin. The first DRS zone is typically the better overtaking zone of the two, but overtakes are possible into turn 9. But the corner is not a heavy braking zone, making overtakes a little bit more tricky. Last year, the pole position lap time was set by Max Verstappen in the Red Bull, and that time was a 1:23.445. During the lap, Verstappen managed to reach a top speed of 329 km per hour. During the Grand Prix itself, the race fastest lap was also set by Verstappen, and that time was a 1:26.993. This year, I anticipate that both lap times will be faster as we come to the end of a very long season. I just want to say if you are enjoying the video so far, then I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe for more F1 content. But now, let's get back to the video and let's talk about Alpine and Haas. Yep, we are once again talking about the fight between Alpine and Haas, as it has come down to a final race showdown, and Pierre Gasly had an incredible race in Qatar, which has allowed Alpine to move back ahead of the Haas team and are now 5 points clear in 6th place. But Alpine are potentially heading into the race as a one-man team, as Esteban Ocon will be leaving the team early and Jack Doohan will be stepping up for the final race to try and help them fend off Haas. However, Jack Doohan will likely be getting up to speed right at the end of the season, so probably will be struggling to score points. This is not ideal for the team, especially as Haas should be decent, if they can get it right. Meanwhile, for Haas, speaking of them, they are entering the race hopeful that they can have both of their drivers get some points and have a clean race. If so, then it will be possible that they can overhaul the gap. But Pierre Gasly is performing at a high level right now, and the Alpine has got a lot faster than where it was early on in the season. With that in mind, I do expect Alpine to hold on to 6th place in the Constructors Championship, provided of course the engine makes it to the end of the race. For Mercedes then, George Russell had a solid race, but couldn't convert pole position to race win, as Max Verstappen made sure he got ahead at the start, but then he lost the place also to Lando Norris as well. Russell and Mercedes were struggling for pace during the first stint and opted to pit early. This turned out to be a massive mistake as he was stuck behind Fernando Alonso for a number of laps. And then he had to pit again under the safety car, but still he managed to recover and finish the race in a respectable P4. For Mercedes, they definitely didn't have the pace that they had in Las Vegas, as I kind of said they wouldn't. Teammate Lewis Hamilton had an absolutely shocking race. The pace was absolutely nowhere, and he is looking very ready to leave the team. For Abu Dhabi, I expect that Mercedes should come alive during qualifying, but in the Grand Prix, especially in the early stages, they will probably be struggling, but will likely finish well. If there is a late race safety car, I expect them to do well. Otherwise, they will probably be the 4th fastest team once again. For Red Bull then, it was a simply lovely performance by Max Verstappen. I did say in my preview and predictions video that he would get pole and also win the race, but to be honest, I didn't actually believe it. The car struggled early in the weekend, but after the sprint race they were able to dial the car in and it really came alive, especially in high-speed corners. But going into Abu Dhabi, I will be surprised if they are that strong. The circuit is not particularly one that should suit this car. The smooth surface will be good, but the tight, slow corners will not be their strong points. I expect that they will be just behind Mclaren and Ferrari in terms of pace, but I expect Max Verstappen will still be in the mix and probably will beat most of those 4 drivers. As for Sergio Perez, he decided that he wanted to have a break and have a Kit Kat early in the Grand Prix by dropping the car under the safety car and then pulling over. He said he lost drive, but I don't know how often you lose drive while the tyres are smoking from spinning up. For Sergio Perez now, he has scored 1 point in 4 races, which is less than Zhou Guanyu in the slowest car on the grid, as Zhou Guanyu in the Sauber managed to score 4 points in Qatar. For Ferrari then, they are heading into the final race with confidence as they managed to close the gap on McLaren despite the Qatar circuit being one that should suit their car perfectly. The gap is now just 21 points, and while that is still quite a lot, given how McLaren enjoys throwing points away, it should still be possible that they can win the Constructors Championship. Charles Leclerc recovered beautifully and managed to finish an excellent P2 in Qatar. Teammate Carlos Sainz finished in 6th place, and I expect Ferrari to be strong at the Yas Marina circuit, as the circuit has characteristics which should suit them perfectly, with straights followed by big braking zones and the heavy braking zones in Sector 3, almost similar to what you would see in Mexico. They were also strong here last year as well with Charles Leclerc. The only thing holding them back from winning the Constructors Championship is that the gap is pretty big to McLaren, and the championship is almost out of their hands. Finally, for McLaren, they threw away a lot of easy points at a circuit which should have been very strong for them, as Lando Norris ignored yellow flags and landed himself with a stop and go penalty. At the time I thought it was very harsh, but it has happened before in the last 5 years or so, but it doesn't happen very often. And teammate Oscar Piastri had a difficult race, as he was struggling for pace compared to his teammates, and then made several mistakes when he got close to George Russell, and in the end, McLaren ended up losing ground on their rivals. The only upside for them is that the gap is still 21 points, which means that it will be difficult for Ferrari to overcome them, but going into Abu Dhabi, the gap between Norris and Leclerc is only 8 points in the Drivers' Championship, meaning that yes, it is possible for Charles Leclerc to finish second in the Drivers' Championship, meaning that yes, it is possible that Norris will end his championship battle against Verstappen in third place. Abu Dhabi should be stronger for Ferrari compared to McLaren as well, meaning that it will be a very interesting battle and one that will be exciting to watch. So for the final time this year then, what are my early predictions for the Grand Prix? Well, I think that the top midfield team and midfield driver, provided they can get to the end of the race, will be Pierre Gasly in the Alpine. Hopefully for them the Renault can hold up for the rest of the weekend. But what about pole position? Well, for pole position, I'm actually going to go for Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari to take pole. But what about the top 5 in the Grand Prix? Well, in P5, I'm going to go for Oscar Piastri in the McLaren. P4 will be Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. P3 will be Lando Norris in the McLaren. P2 will be Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. And yes, I am going to go for Charles Leclerc to win the Grand Prix. And yes, that could be me being a bit biased towards Ferrari. But hey, it's the last race of the year, so let's have a bit of fun. But those are my thoughts. The question is, what do you guys think will happen? In the comment section down below, please do let me know. And as always, comment, leave a like, and subscribe for more F1 content. Thank you all so much for watching.